Custer's final stand at the Battle of the Little Bighorn is one of the most intense moments in American history. This conflict, which took place on June 25, 1876, was more than just a military conflict. The bravery of Native American warriors and the aspirations of American expansionism collided in a profound moment of cultural collision. White Bull, a valiant Lakota warrior, gives us an unmatched viewpoint on the mayhem, valor, and pure terror that characterized this historic battle. White Bull's story highlights not just the fight for survival, but also the ingrained spirit of resistance that defined indigenous peoples in their struggle against insurmountable odds, as bullets flew and lives were lost. Get ready to travel back in time to a crucial period where every detail describes a legacy built on bravery and sacrifice rather than just a war lost. But before we start, please support our community by liking and subscribing to our channel. White Bull resided with his wife, Holy Lodge, at their camp in the Sans Arcs. The lodge adjacent to hers belonged to close relatives, and she was a member of the lodge on the north side of their camp circle. Iron Whiteman, Holy Lodge's father, was a well-liked member of their community. White Bull got up shortly before sunrise one morning and led his father-in-law's horses into the surrounding breaks. The total number of horses was 40, of whom White Bull owned 18. 5 of those 18 were galloping horses, 4 were mares, and 1 was a mule. The remaining horses were geldings. About half a mile from the camp, he led them north along the river. He went home for breakfast after spending some time keeping an eye on the horses and ensuring their safety. He brought his revolver and 2 cartridge belts for protection when he returned to check on the horses after a filling supper with his family. White Bull was attempting to gather his horses that were 125 yards from the water on the west bank of the river. He was keeping a careful eye on the horses when he heard a man shouting upstream. He headed up the river toward the group of hungpapas where Sitting Bull was present out of curiosity and concern. White Bull concluded it was necessary to begin relocating his horses home because they appeared to be getting ready for something significant, or maybe hazardous. He caught one of his charging horses, but as he heard gunfire nearby, he noticed ladies rushing and screaming in terror as they prepared to flee the danger. Sitting Bull was on the south side of the Hungpapa camp, and his father, Makes Room, was on the north. The Sioux warriors on guard at the river bridge spotted the soldiers when they arrived. The majority of the horses had already been taken prisoner by the time they crossed over, and White Bull ended up at the Hungpapa camp, attempting to gauge the situation. He had a Winchester gun with him for protection and was mounted on a powerful bay horse. Upon arriving at Sitting Bull's territory, he saw that his 2 brothers were also there. Sitting Bull frantically urged everyone in his vicinity to get occupied and take action. No one was hurt as the soldiers' initial gunfire passed through a few teepees, but 3 bears were shot down close to White Bull's position. White Bull discovered that a boy called Deeds had been slain roughly 3 miles from their camp when he heard shouting coming from the other side of the river. Brown Arse was Deeds' father. A dog with horns was fatally wounded in this chaotic scene after 3 bears were killed by gunfire. During this tense period, a large number of individuals were collected together as panic spread across the camp. During all of this commotion and chaos, White Bull believed that 3 re-Indian scouts had taken off with around 10 horses, though he wasn't positive, was also killed in this battle while being pursued by an owl. White Bull was in grave danger. A re-scout shot him, and 3 bears and a dog with horns were also killed in this bloody conflict. Following the death of a Cheyenne warrior, another warrior by the name of White Eagle also perished in this conflict. Buffalo Cloud was the re-soldier who fired at those 2 Indians. Before pursuing him, the Sioux were able to seize one Re's horse. However, 2 Sioux warriors, White Eagle and Elk Stands on Hilltop, were slain by retaliatory fire as they did so. Who killed the re-soldier who shot Elk Stands on Hilltop was unknown to them. But shortly later, that re-soldier was killed. During this battle, a few white soldiers used their horses to fire their weapons. They raised a flag at their position as a show of power after firing at the Sioux and briefly driving them back. "Any brave man could take that flag for themselves," White Bull exclaimed. Nevertheless, despite his urging, nobody dared to attempt it. Soldiers returned a little while later and picked it up once more without encountering any opposition. Before escaping, the soldiers came as close to camp as they could to a store from here. These troops belonged to a different unit and were not a member of Custer's force. Some troops fled from danger as they dismounted and set their flag down in anticipation of an attack by Sioux warriors who were prepared to pursue them if necessary. About 3 men were unable to cross the river again and fled down its west bank, where White Bull pursued them until their commanders eventually put an end to their withdrawal. Although White Bull was unable to kill anyone throughout the battle, he was determined to defeat a soldier mounted on a gray horse. Sadly, he was unable to strike him. They paused their pursuit of 3 soldiers and took a short break. They stopped to rest their horses as Custer approached, then proceeded to his position, where they shot 2 of his soldiers before the army could stop them. Custer paused just across from the camp, while the women and children were perhaps 0.5 miles from the action. White Bull was determined to defeat a soldier on a gray horse, even if he was unable to kill anyone during the combat. Unfortunately, he couldn't hit him. They took a little respite and stopped pursuing the 3 troops. As Custer got closer, they halted to let their horses recover. Then, they moved to his position, and before the army could stop them, they shot 2 of his soldiers. The women and children were maybe half a mile from the fight, and Custer stopped directly across from the camp. The remaining Indians soon followed suit as White Bull began his charge, with the final group sprinting into the second group and the second group approaching the third. When the Indians were sandwiched between 2 battalions, White Bull dragged a white soldier from his horse as all of the men hastily mounted their horses. The first group did not sprint in a straight line until they arrived at the second company. Some fled to the river, where they were all slain. White Bull killed another soldier before removing that man off his horse. In a draw, the 4th business attempted to move closer to the 3rd, but was unsuccessful. After removing the man from his horse, White Bull took a belt and revolver from a deceased soldier between the 2nd and 3rd companies. By then, he had counted 2 coups. The horses belonging to the 4th company were gone. Their white horses were part of the Gray Horse Squadron, as it was called. White Bull was interrupted by another Indian while he was chasing after horses. The 3rd company had white and bay horses at the time, but they quickly lost them all. That 3rd company had whites, bays, and sorrels in addition to those from the 1st and 2nd companies. They hurried south before the 3rd company let their horses go. The lone horse was shot from beneath its rider, but all the others were dead. This may have something to do with a man who battled from a neighboring hill. White Bull did not see Butler during this pandemonium, but he must have been with the 2nd or 3rd company. 2 soldiers escaped from down at Reno's position. However, the Indians killed one, and the man who had pursued them killed himself because he refused to return home. By the time they arrived at the 4th company, the white troops from the 1st and 2nd companies were still mounted. They were all murdered in a draw after escaping from the 3rd company. Near the riverbed, the final soldier was slain. White Bull felt satisfied about this result because he picked up head feathers in that same spot. One day, White Bull intended to don all of his feathers. Warriors often only wear 1 or 2 feathers at a time. At rare events, some societies would wear all of theirs. They would wear a red feather as a symbol of their valor if they shot an opponent 1, 2, or 3 times while engaged in combat. White Bull and his band charged the 1st company. Although the 4th company started running in the direction of the hill, the majority of them failed to reach the summit. They lay down and began to fire. Crazy Horse wanted to charge, but eventually backed off when he saw White Bull on the east side. White Bull, however, kept running. While Crazy Horse was conversing with his soldiers, they were near the closest horses. The 1st company was charged by White Bull and his band. While the 4th company began to rush for the hill, most of them were unable to make it to the top. They lay down and started shooting. When Crazy Horse spotted White Bull on the east side, he decided to back off from his initial charge. But White Bull continued to run. They were close to the nearest horses as Crazy Horse was talking to his warriors. According to what White Bull had heard, some warriors fired from behind the necks of their horses. He had a bridle on his horse, but he was riding bareback. He crossed over and joined a group of Indians on the opposite side. A soldier on horseback was run over by White Bull as the 3rd company began to gallop down the hill. The Indians approached White Bull's home as near as this. The lads continued to shout, "Try!" and support one another. White Bull's horse was shot down after it ran over the soldier, leaving him to walk. Then he noticed Bear Lice approaching him while riding a bay, one of the soldier's horses. In order for White Bull to start over and pursue a soldier, Bear Lice gave him this horse. White Bull was able to hit the soldier, but he was unfortunately shot before he could get to him. White Bull saw another soldier standing there attempting to defend himself after striking that one. Leaping from the rented horse, he walked toward him. That soldier was roughly as far away from White Bull as it was from here to the hallway. White Bull approached till the soldier hurled his gun at him after firing at him. White Bull began to fight back as a result. While the soldier attempted to knock the rifle from his grasp, he was holding a whip in his left hand and a gun in his right. After firing at him, the soldier threw his gun at White Bull as he got closer. Consequently, White Bull started to fight back. The soldier had a revolver in his right hand and a whip in his left as he tried to knock the rifle out of his grasp. White Bull yelled twice, "Hey, hey, come help me," which is why they called Crowboy. The soldier was ready to seize White Bull's gun when this occurred. Warriors would typically yell when they hit an adversary. They would declare, "White Bull strikes first, then strikes 2 or 3. Some fighters thought that simply touching an opponent was sufficient proof that they had complied with the requirements for obtaining a coup. White Bull snatched the soldier's belt and weapon after shooting him, then advanced on the adversary. White Bull and his troop took up positions in front of the other soldiers, who were in a draw. 2 soldiers came toward the Indians, who hunkered down and awaited their arrival. One soldier was shot by a White Bull, while the other was shot simultaneously by a Cheyenne warrior. The soldier they shot was the target of their first coup, while the other was the target of their second. After taking the soldier's gun, White Bull ascended the hill. He discovered he couldn't feel his leg when he got to the summit. It had been struck, but simply swollen, not shattered. Until the conflict was over and the Indians started to disperse, he lay in a ditch. White Bull was mounted on one of the horses once they were brought over. He was pursued up the hill by perhaps 10 soldiers. These were that group's last surviving members. With the sun still before noon, the altercation lasted for around an hour. Only a small number of cartridges remained in the belts they had taken from the cap-wearing soldiers. White Bull discovered that their camp had not yet been completely put up when he returned to his father's lodge. There was Sitting Bull with medication. He wrapped it in buffalo fur and placed it to White Bull's wound. Their camp would be set up shortly, the announcer said. While some ladies had to go back for their teepees later, others brought them with them. Wound medicine was the name given to the roots used to make the medication. Despite the turmoil, White Bull claimed that the combat was fantastic and that he enjoyed it. Many women were crying during and after the fight, so White Bull's father encouraged them to sing instead of cry. For the Sioux soldiers who died in combat, a unique song was performed. Elk Stand on Top is a hymn his father recalled for a courageous man. People refer to him as Elk Stand. He was a courageous man, but he is no longer with us. Because of his courage, people sometimes refer to him as Elk Stand on Top, but his spirit is no longer with us. White Bull was cautioned by Sitting Bull that he might be slain at some point. White Bull was not able to hear Sitting Bull's actions throughout the battle because Sitting Bull was fighting across the river at the time. Whether Sitting Bull had long hair or custard was a topic of some debate among the Indians. Make's Room was 50 years old at the time, and White Bull's father remained at home to keep an eye on the women and ensure their safety. Younger fighters made up the majority of the men engaged in this conflict. Of them, just half took part in the conflict. White Bull did not witness Jumping Bull or any other chiefs during this war, and Make's Room never participated in combat himself. Midday came after White Bull's leg had been bandaged, and Sitting Bull continued to medicate White Bull's wound after supper. White Bull went back to the battlefield where the majority of the tight combat took place because he wanted to get his saddle and leggings back that he had thrown away during the conflict. Custer believed he was the greatest man in the world, yet here he lay dead, Bad Soup said, pointing to his body. Sitting Bull's brother-in-law was named Bad Soup. By that time, Custer had lost all his clothes. Interestingly, Bad Soup was not Custer since he lacked a mustache. White Bull picked up 2 pairs of soldiers' pants, his saddle, and leggings from the battlefield. Before bringing them back to his father's house, he cleaned them in the river. White Bull thought that some parents of fallen Indians might have gone up there to mutilate dead troops, even though he did not see anyone doing so. These are the names of the Indians who lost their lives in the Battle of Custer: Arkless Bear with Horns, Lone Dog, Elk Bear, Cloud Man, Murder Him, Rectum, Hunk Papa with Lots of Lice, Oglala Red Face, Oglala, awful light hair, Oglala, hawk man, Oglala, young skunk, Oglala, left-handed. Cheyenne is the nephew of Kate Bighead, the son of an ice bear, the owner of Red Horse, the bearded guy, the Cheyenne war leader, the lame white man, Cheyenne flying by, and the Cheyenne Hair People Band. On the battlefield, he launched a daring charge and was immediately murdered by soldiers. The Sioux scalped him because they believed he was an Indian scout. They later recognized their error. The scalp was ultimately taken from Chief Hump's brother, Little Crow, Swift Cloud, Cheyenne, and Black Coyote. The pack train on the bluffs, Dog Backbone, and Menacondu killed the next two men. He was shot only a few paces ahead of White Bull, Long Road Without an Arc. These are the ones that were slaughtered at the bottom of Reno. 3 bears, a horned dog, a Menacondu, an owl pursuing it, 2 kettles, a quick bear, a big papa, a white bull, a white eagle, an aglala, an elk standing atop, and no ark, an unidentified Cheyenne warrior. They were all taken to the camp and put in a big tent that was used as a makeshift graveyard for the slain. A few were interred in various places. Nearby, their deceased did not accompany them to the White Mountains. 2, however, perished en route and were interred at their last resting place. White Bull walked to one of the bluffs and spent the night there to recuperate and think back on the battle after bringing his saddle and leggings home. After supper, he returned home and collapsed into a deep slumber. He was awakened by his father to inform him that a momentous occasion was imminent. White Bull then approached a hill where a few other men were congregated. They told him that soldiers were approaching them, according to a scout. When White Bull, several injured lice, and another man went to scout ahead, they noticed a soldier who immediately fled when he saw them. About 9 miles north of the scene of the battle, they discovered additional men on the west bank of the river. White Bull did not see any more of these horse troops after that. They took a short break and observed the soldiers without waking anyone in the area. Then in the distance, they noticed some horses grazing contentedly. White Bull and his team led the charge and captured perhaps 30 horses in all. After a short way, they came upon another group of Indians who were hurrying because soldiers were getting closer. At the location where they had previously held their Sundance ceremony, they were camping. White Bull responded that there weren't as many troops overall as they had just slain during the combat when the Indians inquired about the entire number. Since the soldiers did not shoot at the Indians, they brought the 30 horses back to camp. They couldn't reach their horses from the camp. 3 guys found that their camp had moved on without the horses they had taken when they returned to camp with them. As sundown drew near, they split up the horses. After tracking down his camp and finding some food near an abandoned tent site, White Bull kept going until he reached his camp around dusk. He heard a song being sung by his father. "White Bull, you always do something bold when a lot of people are looking at you, and I truly admire that." There was no marching among the soldiers. At that time, their horses were barefooted. White Bull came across some men who requested him for a horse before he could safely make it home. But instead, he advised them to locate one for themselves. Throughout the fight, White Bull pulled off 7 coups, each of which was recorded when a man was struck by a horse. The specifics of White Bull's coups are as follows. He first saw a soldier shot, and as he got to the dead man, he got off his horse and took his weapon and cartridges as the Indians resumed their attack. Then he saw a soldier attempting to prepare his gun to fire White Bull while mounted on a weary horse. Rather, White Bull pulled him off his horse and counted the coup. He also witnessed a soldier on foot waving his gun in all directions in another incident. White Bull ran up after the soldier was shot and declared a coup. Another soldier was walking and pointing his weapon at the Indians. He was defeated by White Bull, who counted a coup. White Bull confronted a foot soldier who aimed at him but did not fire in response to his 6th coup. The soldier fired at White Bull as he approached. After some time of wrestling, White Bull finally got the upper hand and struck the soldier in the head. The soldier came quite close to removing White Bull's rifle from his left hand. White Bull responded by striking him in the face with his whip, which caused the soldier to release his grip. After striking White Bull in the jaw and shoulder, the soldier grabbed his hair and tried to bite his nose in retaliation. White Bull shouted constantly to scare the soldier during this battle. He shoved him over, grabbed his revolver and cartridge belt, and counted coup after striking him on the head multiple times. White Bull was concerned that he might not win this battle since the soldier stayed silent. To frighten him, he yelled repeatedly. White Bull and another Indian were ahead of a troop of foot soldiers during the final two coups. When the soldiers got closer, they dismounted and engaged in combat. To seize their firearms, they leaped into the fray. The two Indians rolled out of the stream bed and fled as more troops came, counting coup twice. I hope this first-hand narrative helps you view the Battle of Little Bighorn and the 1876 Great Sioux War from a different angle. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe